Hello, my name is Sonia Rahman, and I am presenting e-commerce network transmission in cloud computing. First, let's talk about what cloud computing is. The cloud refers to the internet, and cloud computing results in users getting delivered storage, software, networking, and more features over the internet owned by third-party services. You can use this remotely, where users are able to access services online anytime without the need of having an IT team. You can also save money on hardware, facilities, or building large data centers to grow your business. There's elasticity, where you pay for the service you want without paying more for the services that you do not use. So there are four types of clouds that it is hosted on, such as the public cloud, where it is usually based on massive hardware installations distributed in locations throughout the country or across the globe. Their size enables economies of scale that permit maximum scalability to meet requirements as a company's needs expand or contract. There is maximum flexibility to meet surges in demand in real time, as well as maximum reliability in case of hardware failures. In a private cloud, a business has access to infrastructure in the cloud that is not shared with anyone else. The business typically deploys its own platforms and software applications on the cloud infrastructure. In the hybrid cloud, a company's cloud deployment is split between public and private cloud infrastructure. Hybrid clouds are well suited to carrying out big data operations on non-sensitive data in public clouds while keeping sensitive data protected in the private cloud. And then there's community clouds, which are a recent variation on the private cloud model that provide a complete cloud solution for specific business communities, such as those who require strict regulatory compliance, for example, the health, financial, or legal spheres. And then there's three different types of cloud computing. Infrastructure as a service contains the basic building blocks for cloud IT and typically provide access to networking features, computers, and data storage space. Software as a service provides you with a completed product that is run and managed by the service provider. With this, it offers you to not think about the service and how it is maintained or how the underlying infrastructure is managed. You only need to think about how you use that particular piece of software. Platforms as a service remove the need for organizations to manage the underlying infrastructure, such as hardware and operating systems, and allow you to focus on the deployment and management of your applications, which can be more efficient as you don't need to worry about the resource procurement, capacity planning, patching, and many other things. In cloud computing, security and privacy are a major hurdle because of its open and distributed architecture, and this questions whether it ensures confidentiality and integrity, especially during the time of COVID-19, where there are more users on these e-commerce sites. Like, for example, retail shopping and banking, as well as video communications and content streaming. Many businesses, they do not have a rapid way to monitor and report their e-commerce sites consistently to prevent a harmful network and respond in a timely manner. The hypothesis that I have arrived with is that training employees of cloud providers on skills to secure cloud infrastructure will reduce the number of attacks on e-commerce sites. Understanding or just knowing cloud computing architecture is not sufficient for building a cloud computing environment or even developing cloud services. And companies should consider utilizing specialty business partners and expanding baseline IT expertise to include a higher level of professionals in their field to help them in times where the usage and threat frequency is higher than normal, like during COVID-19. That way they have a backup and they can reduce the number of attacks. When users visit e-commerce sites, they are susceptible to a wide range of attacks, which can create poor quality of service, user experience, and distract providers from primary responsibilities. These attacks include denial of service such as SYN flood, buffer overflow attacks, ICMP flood, or even worse, distributed denial of service. This, with the addition of more users on the network during COVID-19, will make it easier to take control of the user's information. This visual right here shows how an attacker can inject malicious script to an e-commerce platform, going to the front end of the store so that when a user goes into the e-commerce platform, the payment information of the user will be sent to the attacker's server. An attacker will get the payment information and it will result in an attack. A few studies that I have encountered had other ideas in mind in order to reduce attacks on e-commerce sites. One being virtual private networks being in place. Studies show that cloud providers were not prepared of the spike of increased traffic due to reduced staff and working remotely. As there is limited bandwidth availability and slower loads, cloud providers that provide VPNs should better help their customers decrease the network transmission attacks they might face. Another study has said that there should be right access controls about who can access the cloud resources so that they could minimize the harm that could arise during attack. There also should be improved scrutinizing. A study by Comparatech showed that cyber criminals are conducting automatic scans to identify misconfigured cloud services. And organizers should be persistent in monitoring their cloud resource configurations to identify misconfigured cloud services and are aware before an attack occurs. My solution has to do with human error being known to increase the number of attacks that hackers are successful with. With social engineering on the rise, it has made it easier than ever to hack into an e-commerce platform provided by a cloud computer and user accounts. As technology is advancing, that also results in newer attacks that might have not been evident, which is always becoming a challenge for people and businesses to be updated with it. Those businesses that use cloud computing should have stronger ways to make sure that their data is encrypted. Organizations that emphasize training are also quicker at detecting attacks and more efficient at isolating them. This diagram right here shows how confident people are in using cloud. And there is a direct correlation between the degree of usage and the confidence levels, as you guys can see. Even people who say they're overly confident about it have a possibility of misusing the data on the cloud and accessing what they should not be accessing. According to this diagram right here, it shows the perceived responsibility for security of the cloud. It shows that cloud provider and user equally have the highest percentage compared to the cloud provider only, the user, or other. This is because cloud provider and the user equally are both in control, and that way they could both mitigate the steps in getting an attack on their systems. So this can be accomplished using encryption and decryption schemes In such a scenario, even if the data gets into the hands of a hacker, they will not be able to make any unauthorized use until they know how to decrypt it. A few of the decryption techniques include private and public key encryption. There's also a symmetric algorithm where the encryption and decryption keys are the same, and it makes it best for closed systems and individual users, and is used to secure the communication that is used on these e-commerce sites. There's asymmetric algorithms where there's two keys, the private and public, and these can be very helpful for e-commerce sites, and cloud providers should heavily emphasize using encryption and decryption techniques. Another way that cloud providers can decrease the amount of attacks that are occurring on the e-commerce site is by reducing the latency in the network transmission. For example, when more people are ordering online on Black Friday, or when there's a new product that is very popular, for example, the PS5, there will be high latency and it can disrupt the network, leading to malicious attacks. And cloud providers should check where the bottleneck is. An attacker may try to modify packet streams and attempt changes in network behavior and corrupt packets to cause TCP retransmission. Cloud providers can rewrite applications to improve latency and reduce quality issues. By rewriting the applications again, they could see flaws that they had missed the first time and they just picked it up right now. They could reduce the amount of attacks on the e-commerce site. According to this diagram, the higher the processes, which is the amount of people that are on the website, the latency also goes up, which shows there's a direct correlation between the amount of users and the latency as well. It is a top priority for both the cloud providers and the users on the e-commerce sites to not get their data compromised. This led me to have the solutions of increasing the amount of training the cloud provider employees take and the effectiveness as well, so that they could be alert in any type of situation that occurs. Like, for example, the COVID-19, which I emphasized throughout this presentation. I also emphasized on the encryption and decryption methods so that there is authenticity and integrity throughout the cloud provider platforms and the e-commerce platforms. For future work, intrusion detection systems will keep up with the high traffic and be able to scan the network continuously and present the employees with the issues right away. Whereas without this, the employees will not be able to see the issues right away because of more latency or something wrong with their system. And this way, the attack situation will be resolved with minimum harm done compared to if the employees took longer to detect the situation. So thank you for watching my presentation.